The Unrivaled League was cruising toward the end of its season, everyone kind of settling into the idea that we knew who the contenders were, who was fading, and how the final stretch might look. Then, out of nowhere, a three-team trade drops, and suddenly, everything we thought we knew gets flipped. One move after another, and by the time the dust settles, the entire balance of power looks different. And right in the middle of all that chaos, one question starts exploding all over social media. Is Angel Reese about to walk back through the door and rescue the defending champions, Rose Basketball Club? The reaction wasn't random or overnight drama. It came from something very specific. What was announced, in what very noticeably was not. The trade itself made a lot of basketball sense on the surface. Courtney Williams, Sanaya Rivers, and Azura Stevens all changed teams, and each move plugged a gap for a different roster. But it's that empty space on Rose BC's side of the deal, the missing name that hasn't been revealed yet, that has turned a normal transaction into a full-on frenzy. Fans saw that vacancy and immediately started connecting it to one name, Angel Reese. To understand why everyone's so locked in on this, you have to look at how the whole situation started. The first domino to fall wasn't about Rose BC at all. It was Breeze Basketball Club facing a problem they couldn't ignore. Their guard, Ari McDonald, was ruled out for the rest of the season with a right lower extremity injury. That's a huge blow. Breeze were sitting at 5-5, right in the middle of the standings in 4th place. Not great, not terrible, but absolutely in that zone where one big move could save the season, or one bad break could send it spiraling. McDonald isn't just another player, she's a spark plug, a key piece in the backcourt. Losing her meant the team's young stars, Paige Beckers and Cameron Brink, suddenly had a lot more weight on their shoulders. Breeze couldn't just hope things worked out. They needed another veteran guard who could handle the ball, organize the offense, and provide some leadership down the stretch. That's when they picked up the phone and things really started moving. The first big move was Breeze bringing in Courtney Williams from Vinyl. If you followed women's basketball at all, you know exactly what she brings. Tough, fearless, experienced, and not afraid of big moments. For Breeze, adding someone like Williams around Beckers and Brink is a clear signal. They're not treating this as a lost season. They want to win now, not just develop and wait for next year. But in a league as tight as Unrivaled, nothing happens in isolation. Once Williams left Vinyl, that created a brand new problem for them. Suddenly, Vinyl were down a veteran guard of their own. They couldn't just let that hole sit open either, especially this late in the competition. So the second part of the trade kicked in. Vinyl brought in Sanaya Rivers from Hive. Rivers is younger, long, athletic, disruptive defensively, and still evolving offensively. For Vinyl, it's a bit of a change in style. They move from a seasoned, steady presence like Williams to someone who can inject energy and versatility all over the floor. That brings us to the third move, and this is where everything shifts toward the defending champions. To make up for losing Rivers, Hive turned around and acquired Azura Stevens from Rose. On paper, that's huge. Stevens is a big, skilled front-court player with championship pedigree, the kind of piece most teams don't casually give up, especially if they're trying to defend a title. Hive, meanwhile, gets size, length, and scoring from the forward spot, which could completely change their ceiling. But if Hive got Stevens, and Breeze got Williams, and Vinyl got Rivers, what exactly did Rose BC get in return? That's the part that set the internet on fire. The official Unrivaled announcement laid out the movement of those three players very clearly. What it did not do was tell anyone who would be stepping into the roster spot Stevens just vacated on Rose BC. No name, no hint, no follow-up explanation, just silence. That silence did more damage than a week's worth of rumors ever could. Rose BC aren't just any team, they're the reigning Unrivaled champions from 2025, a club that set the standard early in this new league. But this season, they haven't looked like the unstoppable force people expected. Defending a title is hard enough when everything is stable. Trading away a major piece like Stevens when you're already not as dominant as last year, that's not the kind of move you make unless you have something bigger in mind. So fans did what fans always do. They zoomed in on that unnamed roster spot, looked at the timing, looked at the context, and started asking the one question that would blow everything up. Is that spot being held open for Angel Reese? It didn't take long for that speculation to start flooding timelines. People on X were already throwing out reactions along the lines of Rose getting Angel back. Others were even surer, posting things essentially saying that Angel was obviously returning to save Rose. Once those kinds of comments start circulating, they pick up speed fast, especially when there's no official denial, no alternative name attached, nothing to slow the momentum. There's a reason Angel's name was the first one most people thought of. She was a massive presence in Unrivaled's early days, and she made her mark quickly. In this league, she earned the honor of being the first ever Defensive Player of the Year. That's a big title in a competition built around some of the best talent in women's basketball. She was the physical enforcer, the emotional engine, the kind of player that changes the entire energy of a team the second she checks in. Add to that everything she's already accomplished in the game. Angel Reese became a household name at LSU, leading them to a national championship and turning every game into an event. Then she stepped into the WNBA with the Chicago Sky and kept that same edge, crashing the boards, drawing contact, playing with swagger, and never backing down from the spotlight. She's not just another good player, she's a brand, a lightning rod, and one of the faces of modern women's basketball. Recently, though, there's been another side to her career playing out. Reese has been dealing with a lingering back issue, something serious enough that it sped up the end of her WNBA season with the Sky. Instead of forcing it on the court, she made it clear she was focused on getting her body right, laser-focused on off-season training and recovery. When a player of her profile emphasizes health and long-term performance like that, it makes any potential return to competitive play a huge question mark. That's what makes this situation so charged. On one hand, Rose BC clearly need a shakeup. They're not rolling through the league the way a defending champion usually does. They just traded away Azura Stevens, which looks like a major sacrifice, unless it's a setup for something bigger. On the other hand, Angel Reese has been publicly committed to getting healthy, working through that back issue, and preparing the right way for what comes next. So fans are staring at this mysterious open roster spot, knowing how much she meant to the league as its first Defensive Player of the Year, and wondering if everything is about to line up.
From a pure basketball standpoint, the fit would be almost too perfect. Rose BC losing a skilled frontcourt player like Stevens and potentially replacing her with a dominant rebounder and defender like Reese would instantly restore some of that fear factor they had last season. Imagine their opponents trying to score inside with Angel anchoring things again. Imagine the second chance points, the physical tone she'd set from the jump. For a team that's had a harder time imposing its will this year, that kind of presence could flip their entire trajectory before the season ends. But there's also a realistic side to all this that can't be ignored. Health isn't just a minor detail. If Reese really is still focused on rehabbing her back and putting together a full, productive WNBA campaign ahead, stepping back into a high-level, intense league like Unrivaled isn't a decision you make lightly. There are also questions about timing and logistics. How strict is the league on roster deadlines? Are there contractual limits or rules that would make a late-season return more complicated than fans realize? The league hasn't shared those details, and without that clarity, a lot of what people are dreaming up right now is just that, dreaming. Still, that's part of what makes this so addictive to follow. A three-team trade like this late in the season with a defending champion sending out a key player and no official incoming name is exactly the kind of thing that pulls fans into detective mode. People are scrubbing press releases, watching unfollows and new follows on social media, reading into every vague comment from players and coaches. In men's basketball, we've seen this type of thing for years. Women's basketball is now fully in that era too, where player movement and roster drama generate as many headlines as the box scores. Think about each team in this trade again, and you see just how high the stakes are. Breeze BC scrambling after Ayari McDonald's season-ending injury, grab Courtney Williams because they can't afford to slide down the table. Vinyl forced to pivot, bring in Sanaya Rivers, a player whose best years might still be ahead of her. Hive make an aggressive move for Azura Stevens, adding real frontcourt firepower that could put them in that top-tier conversation. And Rose BC, the team that should be the most stable as defending champs, suddenly look like the biggest wild card, because they're the only ones with a question mark where a player's name should be. That question mark is why Angel Reese is trending in every conversation tied to this league right now. She might not even be the person they're targeting. Rose BC could be looking at an entirely different kind of player. It could be someone under the radar, someone nursing their own injury, or even another established WNBA name ready to jump back in. But when you leave a void like that in the public announcement, you leave room for the biggest possible name to walk into it in the minds of fans. At the same time, it says something about where women's basketball is right now that so many people instantly linked that opening to Reese. Her name moves numbers, drives engagement, and changes the energy around any team she's associated with. For the Unrivaled League, having her back on the court, especially with a high-profile franchise like Rose BC, would be a massive boost. For the Chicago Sky, it would be another chapter in the constant conversation about how their star is using the offseason. For Reese herself, it would be an opportunity to remind everyone exactly why she was the league's first Defensive Player of the Year. Until we get an official announcement, though, all of this lives in that gray area between hope and reality. What we do know for sure is this: Ayari McDonald is out for the season with a right lower extremity injury. Breeze BC reacted quickly by bringing in Courtney Williams. Vinyl filled their new gap with Sanaya Rivers from Hive. Hive, in turn, made a power move for Azura Stevens from the defending champions. And Rose BC, surprisingly vulnerable this season and now down a major piece, have an open spot that has not been publicly claimed by anyone yet. Everything beyond that is speculation, fueled by that silence and by Angel Reese's history with this league. Fans see the dots and desperately want them to connect. Maybe they will. Maybe the next announcement we get is that Reese is back in a Rose BC jersey ready to lock down the paint again. Or maybe this is one of those times where the internet gets ahead of reality and the real move is something fewer people would have guessed. Either way, the trade has already done its job. It's shaken up the standings, changed multiple rotations, and put enormous pressure on Rose BC to reveal their hand. It's also reminded everyone just how quickly things can turn in Unrivaled. One injury, one decision, one unannounced roster move, and suddenly the entire league is talking. So now I want to know what you think. Do you see this as Rose BC quietly clearing the runway for Angel Reese to make a dramatic late-season comeback? Or do you think this is just wishful thinking from fans who miss seeing her dominate defensively in this league? And looking at the trade itself, which team do you think actually came out on top? Breeze with Courtney Williams, Vinyl with Sanaya Rivers, Hive with Azura Stevens, or Rose with whatever mystery move they're holding back? Drop your thoughts and predictions, because if and when that vacant spot on Rose BC finally gets filled, it's going to be one of the most talked about moments of the Unrivaled season. Stay tuned, because this league just turned what looked like a quiet run to the finish into one of the most intriguing off-court plot lines we've had yet in women's basketball.